I just wanted to state something real quick before I begin this Boku no Hero Academia review. For all of you that have supported me today, and will continue to support me, I truly am thankful. You guys are like a bright light. You're so bright, it's like I'm going blind, because I just can't believe that the video I made earlier today turned out so well. I figured it would probably have some form of a negative reaction to it, because I've seen stuff like that uploaded before on other YouTubers, big YouTubers, and there's usually like a negative response to it. I'm truly shocked with how many of you are so supportive and understanding, and I want to say thank you to every single one of you out there, even if you couldn't. It's still the point and the thought that counts, that you went out of your way to message and just give me your, your actual heart and let me know how you feel about the situation. It means a lot to me, and I just want to say thank you for all of you that, are looking out for me. It really, you guys just do not realize what that means. I don't think you understand how much that means to me, but thank you. So with that being said, let me begin this week's Boku no Hero Academia anime episode review. Okay, so a lot of important things happen in this episode. Some things very noticeable, some things that you could easily miss. And so this episode can be divided into two different segments. The first segment is going over the different scores and where the students placed in the classroom, and the second half of the episode is focusing on who was fighting who and how they can stand up against their opponent. So before I get into like the epic stuff in the second half of the episode, I want to talk about the first half, because it kind of gives you an analysis on how some of these characters are in their classroom, but also how they could possibly interact with each other. So I have a list here. I have a list written down for their scores for all the students and where they placed, and I kind of want to go over them in, one by one in order. So let's start off with, Momo. She is number one. She's at the top of her class. She scored the highest. And as we know, Momo has the quirk to where she can create anything as long as she has the knowledge of how its, structure is, however it's made, and she's able to create certain objects, anything she wants. And so Momo has a very powerful quirk. She's very gifted, but at the same time, though, she has some certain things that she's obviously lacking, which Aizawa pops up and tells us in this episode that she clearly is very intelligent. She's someone that is very skilled and could have a high potential to be a very great hero in the future. However, one of the big things that are holding her back is the ability to quickly think and overcome any obstacle before her. And the reason for this, it's kind of obvious when you think about it. It's thanks to her quirk. It's not that she lacks the ability to think and get out of a certain situation. It's that she lacks confidence within herself, but also she has to think so hard on how to make certain objects. I mean, just imagine this, okay? You're making like a shield like we saw in the flashback in this episode with Momo. You're trying to make a shield. You gotta remember how the shield is, like the entirety of the structure of the shield and what is in it and all that to be able to make it. And so Momo has to constantly remember all of these different details and be able to structure it in her mind, and then it can come out. And so that's a lot of thinking right there, and that could definitely slow your movements down when you're trying to fight in combat. If you're focusing on making objects, you're obviously not going to be able to focus on the enemy's movements. For instance, if a villain's coming at you and you're thinking about how to construct something in your mind, you're not going to be thinking about, oh crap, they're going to the left, they're about to punch me in the side of the face. You're not going to be thinking about that, because you're having so much going on in your mind. And so that's one of Momo's obvious flaws, but also there is something that stands out with her character, which anime-onlys might have forgotten about. She's one of the only two characters that have been applied to the school UA thanks to recommendation. For instance, she's very similar to how Todoroki was. Todoroki was recommended to the school because of recommendation. He didn't get it into the school like, Izuku and all of them. He was recommended to get into the school. Very similar to how Momo was. And so Momo is just like Todoroki, and also you got to imagine, we've already seen some setup for this in the previous arcs, where how Momo feels like she's lacking a little bit when it comes to how Todoroki is just so much better. And you've even seen how she looks at him, the way she just constantly stares at, and the way she seems like she lacks confidence or she's upset, it's because she's trying to always compare herself with Todoroki and if she can stand up with him. And so it makes sense that they would be paired together since they're both recommendations, and that we know that Momo, she has this hidden side to her to where she feels like she is not as good as Todoroki, and she feels like maybe she's not worth being in the school because of her recommendation. So with that being said, Momo is a very interesting choice, and going a little bit more into her character, we get to see another side of her. She is very rich. I mean, it's kind of been hinted at before, but you really get to see it in this episode that she is extremely, extremely rich. She is from a very, very wealthy family. And so because of that, her upbringing has been very sheltered. And to get into those details, it's basically like this. She has had everything she ever wanted since at birth. She could have probably anything she wanted. She probably was able to get anything or do anything she wanted because of how rich her family was. And in turn, you could say that this is why she's able to create so many different things or objects, is because she had her family to be so wealthy, she was able to get anything she wanted and then learn about it, and then she was able to make it her own self. So when you look at it like that, it was thanks to her family's wealth that caused her to have so much knowledge about certain objects she makes. It's a very perfect situation, but at the same time, because of her environment, she's been very sheltered, and so she probably does, like I said, lack confidence for herself. So anyways, moving on to the number 2 spot, we have Ida. Now Ida, it's to be expected that he would be near the top. I mean, he's like the class rep and all that. This man has always been very intelligent. He's a straight-laced individual, and we know he has his pitfalls here and there. I mean, look at the previous arc with, the Stain arc and all that. However, Ida is a very strong-willed person. He usually has his head on straight, and he knows what needs to be done, and so him to be a bookworm and study and, be near the top of the class, it makes perfect sense when it comes to his character and everything that has been established. Now, I don't think I need to get any more into his character because it's pretty obvious. Now, the next one is Bakugou. So, Bakugou might come as a surprise for many, but if you watch my vids, most likely you kind of expected this. But let me give an FYI if you don't know how Bakugou became number 3. Bakugou has always been an intelligent individual, and many tend to forget about that. Even myself included, I tend to forget that sometimes because his personality has such an awful personality, and you tend to forget that this man is a very intelligent person. He's able to do insane things with his quirk, and he's able to think about what he's wanting to do with his quirk or control his abilities and all of that. So this man, he has a lot of skill, but at the same time, though, one of his biggest flaws is his personality, which we have seen especially in the last arc when we saw him with, Best Jeanist, and when he was, training with him, we got to see some of these flaws pop up. However, Bakugou has always shown that he's intelligent. We've always seen this. Big examples throughout the arcs of Boku no Hero Academia. And so him to be near the top makes perfect sense. And so many might have forgotten how intelligent Bakugou was because of how rotten his personality is. So yeah, Bakugou, number 3 spot. Yeah, I don't think anyone should really complain because it makes sense when you look at his character and the build up to it. Number 4, we have Izuku, which this really puts in perspective where Bakugou is on the leaderboards, and Izuku as well. Bakugou has always had this, rivalry with Izuku. We know this. Bakugou has always had an issue with him. We know he gave him the name Deku. We know that he used to bully him a little bit, but, Izuku still kind of hangs out with him and, tries to be nice to him overall. But there's always been an issue between these two. These two have always had their own separate issues, and they basically can never come to a complete understanding. And so you can see that for Bakugou to be higher than Izuku, he's clearly not dumb. Because we know Izuku, from our personal experience with the character, we know that he's intelligent because of how much he is a bookworm and how much knowledge he has of different heroes. And when we get to see his inner psyche and what he's thinking about when he's fighting people, we get to see what he's wanting to do and how he's thinking ahead. So if, Izuku is number 4 and Bakugou is higher than him, it just goes to show how smart Bakugou is. That reinforces the fact that Bakugou is someone you do not want to underestimate. But Izuku as well, he's always, trying to improve, which is why Bakugou was so angry in this episode, because Izuku was using his movements, which has been done before. This wasn't just the first time that Izuku has taken movements from Bakugou. In the first time Bakugou and Izuku fought in Season 1, towards, the ending of it, or middle half or whatever, you had it to where Izuku used Bakugou's own moves against him, and also was able to counter him thanks to him recognizing how he fights. And then when we had that tournament arc, when, Izuku fought Todoroki and all that, we also had to where Bakugou, when he was fighting Ochako, he was very cautious, because he knew that Izuku probably was helping out Ochako, and that Ochako would know how to counter his abilities or moves or whatever, because, Izuku has studied him so much. And so Bakugou was very cautious, and he didn't want to play it, too risky at all. So it gets to show where these characters are kind of stationed at when it comes to their levels of the intelligence and ability, and so I like that. Now, moving on, we have Todoroki. So Todoroki is number 5, so he's near the top as well. He's also a recommendation student. He's very similar to Momo, but as you can see, he is nowhere near the intelligence level of Momo, Ida, Bakugou, Izuku. However, Todoroki is intelligent. I'm not putting him down, I'm not degrading him as his ability to think. However, we have already seen firsthand, when it comes to Boku no Hero Academia, especially in the Stain arc, that he relies too much on his quirk, and he doesn't think about using other things besides his quirk. And this was once again pointed out and reinforced in this episode, and you had where Aizawa was even talking about it. So basically, what it's saying here is that Todoroki, he's an intelligent and gifted person, he has an insane quirk, but at the same time, though, he relies too much on one thing, and he needs to be able to balance both things. Not just balance both sides of fire and ice, but balance his physical abilities and his mind alongside of his quirk. And that's one of the big things of this series. We have seen time and time again as well, is that it's not just about quirk that always wins a fight. With Stain's match, when we saw Stain fight everybody, Stain was insane because he didn't just rely on his quirk, he was basically fighting without a quirk and kicking ass. So that is what's trying to be implied here, that Todoroki needs to overcome his weakness, which is relying too much on his brute force, his strength. Now, the next one, we have Asui, Froppy. So, Asui, or Suyu, she, overall, her being number 6, she hasn't really shown too much to say that she's, near the bottom. She has proven that she's very gifted and intelligent as well, especially in the first season when she had more focus, and especially when we saw in her little filler episode as well, we noticed that she had a lot of intelligence and she was able to think about certain things and show that she's taking proper steps to become a good hero. So her being number 6 and being towards the top as well, I feel like it fits just perfectly, so I have really no complaints at all. Now, Jiro, oh my god, she's criminally underrated, and she needs to have more screen time, panel time. She needs more details and all that. I love Jiro so much. I love her character. Sadly, there's just not a lot of her character even in the manga, and that's why I was saying I would love to see a filler episode entirely focused on her. But we know that she is smart, but at the same time, we know she is probably not as gifted as the others, like, Ida, Momo, and all of them, but she has her own level. But there's not really much to say about her character because we haven't really gotten a whole lot with her. Now, the next one we have Ojiro being, number 8 from his persona and what we've seen of his character as well. He seems overall to be around the right place he should be in the class. Now, Mineta, number 9. This is probably one of the most shocking ones out of the entire list. I remember I was very shocked when I read this chapter in the manga, and Mineta was number 9 out of the entire class. I'm like, yo, what? You would think a character like Mineta that is very perverted and always looking at girls, peeping and all that, looking through holes, getting his eyes poked and all that, you think this man would not have a high intelligence level. You'd think he'd be one of those characters that is all about the comedy, but doesn't try to hit the books and study. That's what you would think his character would be, and that's the normal case of these characters, especially characters like Mineta. They're usually not that smart at all, and that is what's very surprising. This character, he is actually completely different from his normal character theme. He's actually very intelligent, but very perverted. So I like that. Mineta's always been one of my fan favorites. He's not my favorite character, but he's been one of my fan favorites just because he's underappreciated. Many don't like him because of how perverted he is, but I love his character because he really stands out, and he's a type of dude that obviously has a quirk that's very useful, but it's not the strongest, but if he applies it in a certain way, it could become very, very powerful. And it really makes you wonder how he, won his test at the beginning when he was fighting the robots. How did he how is he able to succeed and win? That is a question many of us manga readers have been wondering for a very long time, and so I know Minato must have a very gifted mind, but he does, it's very similar to Momo, he has confidence issues. So next, when we move over to number 10, Shoji. So Shoji, he is, I guess him being, like, directly in the middle of the class, I guess it sets a good balance, because when you look at his character, the general impression you get of Shoji is someone that's more of a brute, I guess, but then when you think about it, you're like, he does have this intelligence to him, especially when we saw the previous arc and all that, when he was helping out, you know, Suyu and Mineta, so we know he's not completely dumb, and he's not all about brute force either. So him to be, like, right in the middle of the class with his grades, it's a perfect balance, because he's not overly intelligent, and he's not dumb as well. Then we move over to Koda. Koda, he's more of a passive character. He's someone that is very nice and sweet and all that, and at the same time, he is someone that most likely, he tries his hardest, but he probably can never be near the top like the others. That's the impression you get of his character. Now, Sato. Sugarman, basically. Sato is a very interesting character, so to say. You know for a fact he's probably not one of the most intelligent characters, especially because of his quirk. His quirk makes it to where when he eats sugar and consumes it, it makes it to where he kind of goes a little bit brain dead. Like, he just can't think properly. It's kind of like he's, you know, just losing brain cells by the moment while he consumes more and more sugar. It makes him strong, but he sacrifices his intelligence for brute strength, which is a very big thing that works against the main theme of Boku no Hero Academia. And like I've been stating, it's not just about brute force that's gonna win. It's always about the mind as well. And so him having a quirk that actually hurts his mind, that's bad. That actually works against him. So him having a quirk that affects his mind and him also being in 12th place near the bottom and all that, I think that fits perfectly. I'm not saying he's a bad character. I'm just saying it makes sense because of the way his quirk works. Now, we also have, you know, Ochiko. Ochiko, you would think she'd be way more intelligent than she got. Like, her score, I mean, her score is very, very, very low. I mean, she's 13 out of 20. You'd think that she would be way out there. Like, she'd be in the top, like, 8 or something. Probably not top 5, but at least top 8 or even top 10. You'd think she would be up there, but she definitely was not even in that. She was in the 13th spot, which is probably one of the most shocking characters besides Mineta, because when you look at Ochiko, you get the impression that she's an intelligent individual, and that she is someone that has this nice persona about her where she can possibly just accomplish anything. She can study and do really well. But this proves that she clearly has problems with studying. I mean, she tries to act strong and all that, but she clearly has her weakness when it comes to this. So that's probably very shocking. That's a little bit more character to her to let us know that she needs to work on that, being able to think and apply herself when it comes to studying. Now, Tokoyami is another shocking one, too. Not as shocking as Mineta or Ochiko, but Tokoyami is shocking just because when you look at his character, the general impression you get of Tokoyami is that he is a very, very, very smart student. Like, that is the, like, look you give him. Like, have you ever seen someone in school or whatever, when you go in the classroom and you see this dude and all that, reading a book or whatever, you, like, peg this man as, like, the bookworm or the very intelligent student amongst the class? That is what I get when I look at Tokoyami. And I think many can agree with me, that's what many of us might think when we see his character, is that he's very intelligent, or he looks like he's very intelligent, and that he has this persona of being very intelligent, especially the way he speaks to others and all that. You'd think this man would be near the top of the class, like top 5, definitely, but he was not. He was number 14. So what you can get from this is that he loves to put on an act or something to make it seem like he's smart, but in reality, he's not. Or he's one of those students that probably don't really care to study at all. Like, okay, let's put an example. He's a very gifted person, he has a really great mind, but he's one of those students that just don't want to try. He feels like it's kind of he doesn't really need to put all his effort to become the top #1 student of the class. He has no care or, you know, desire to be near the top. That could be what his character is implying with this grade, is that he never wanted to be near the top, he just wanted to be able to pass, and that's how he's moving through life. So he could be very intelligent, it's just he's deceiving us because he just doesn't care to apply himself. Or he puts on a persona, but he's not really that smart at all. So one of those two. Next one we have Kirishima. Now Kirishima, his spot makes a lot of sense, really. I mean, he has shown that he is not the most gifted when it comes to the mind. He's one of those type of characters that are all about brute force when you look at it, especially in this episode when you see him fighting with Sugar Man. You can see that he's that type of character. He doesn't really think. He's like a typical shonen character, and there's nothing wrong with that, but his grades definitely being like that, it reflects what type of person he is, and it makes complete sense from what has already been established. Sero, Tate Boy, Sero, not really much has been shown about Sero. Like, there's not a whole lot of details about him, which is kind of sad. Very similar to how Jiro is, so I really don't have a good impression on him overall. But I do like his ability. It reminds me of Spider-Man. Every time I see the man, I feel like he's Spider-Man. And so I feel like the man could possibly be a really strong hero. And he might be up there very similar to Tokoyami. Maybe he just doesn't want to apply himself to like any situation. And he's just going with the flow. He could be very similar to that. Now, Ishido, talking about her, she's definitely not that smart. I mean, she's a bubbly, ditzy girl. I love her. I would love more information about her. Very similar, like I said, to Jiro and Sero and all that. But Ishido, she is definitely near the bottom of intelligence when it comes to the entirety of the class, or at least studying. Maybe she's smart, she just doesn't like to study. You could tell that she's the type that just absolutely despises studying and looking stuff up or doing homework. She just gives that impression with her personality and her character since the first time we met her. Now, moving on to the last one, we have Kaminari. Kaminari being near the bottom. Yeah. Yes. No, I don't think I need to even explain why. Yes, that man definitely deserves the bottom spot. So anyways, we can move on to the next segment. I'm done with, the talking about the students and the individuals and stuff. Let's talk about the second half of the episode. It's been a very long video already. Please forgive me for that. But, basically, at the end of the episode, the second segment, it is revealed that our students, for their final test to be able to go to the training camp, they are going to be going up against the teachers, which is, in a way, when you look at it, it's unfair. It's legit unfair. It's like saying, hey, let's put you up against a big-ass, grown-ass man that's like 300 pounds of muscle, and you're like a baby, like a little toddler. That's basically what's going on here. A toddler going up against a 300-pound muscle wrestler, and that's not going to work out too well. You're going to get destroyed. That's exactly what's going to happen, okay? And so, it's unbalanced, it's unfair. Now, obviously, these characters, like the teachers, they did take a handicap. They're putting on restraints and all that to make it to where they're weighed down and they cannot move around as much as they would want. So, I mean that if they're very physically stronger, they need to dodge fast or whatever, they still can't maneuver as fast as they want. They'll have a slower reaction time. So, it kind of makes up for the students, being able to fight these teachers. But still, that's probably not enough, because you got to remember that these are professional heroes. They're used to handicaps. That's the big thing of what this test is trying to showcase, is that when you're going up against a villain, you can never expect to have the advantage on your side. You can have like a water-based quirk, but you could be in the middle of the desert fighting a villain. You see what I'm getting at. You have a complete handicap there, and it would not be a very good match for you to go up against a villain in the desert while you use water to use your quirk. So that's kind of what this training is trying to show, that once again, you can never expect to have the advantage on your side. When you're going up against a villain in the field, or whatever happens, never expect to have the home field advantage, never expect to be able to be on top with your quirk. You need to understand that you're probably always at a disadvantage, and if it's not just your quirk that's at a disadvantage, it's your position that's at a disadvantage, because remember, a villain, they don't really have much to protect. When they're trying to do something, conquer the world, destroy things, kill people, whatever it means that they want to do, they don't really need to worry about protecting things. However, heroes, if they're in the middle of the city, obviously if there's a bunch of civilians behind them, they gotta protect them civilians. They cannot go overload and start punching the hell out of the villain and then blowing up the city. They can't do that, because that will cause the civilians to get harmed. They will die, or the villain will use the civilians as a hostage, which in turn would be used against the hero. And so once again, even if it's not the quirk, you're always at a disadvantage, because a hero, they always have to worry about other things besides what the villains have to worry about. The villains are just worrying about taking down the hero, while the heroes have to worry about taking down the villain, suppressing him, but also worrying about the civilians, the damage to the property, to the handicap with the quirk, all of these little things, and then also their physical weakness when it comes to using their quirk. So there's always a problem in any situation, And that is what the training is trying to show, that whoever you're up against, never expect to be able to have like a 100% win or 100% victory. That is not going to happen. And so with these, characters being stacked up against certain, teachers, it was actually meant to be unbalanced. It was meant to show that this is what's going to happen. You're going to overcome and have to overcome many issues like this if you want to be a professional hero. I mean, look at what happened, to Kirishima in this episode, or Sugarman, when they were going up against, Cemento and all that. When they were trying to fight him, they just could not fight for long periods of time. They ran out of stamina, which in turn, that worked against him. When he ran out of stamina, the person that they were fighting, he could just go on for a very long time. And so all he had to do is wait for them to tire out, wipe them out, there you go, the villain just won. So that's what this is showing. And then you also have to look at the others, like Ectoplasm and all that, making the duplicates and going up against Tokoyami and all that, and Tsuyu at the end of the episode. Or how we have, Bakugou and Izuku going up against All Might. That is just completely unbalanced, because we know how Izuku feels about All Might. We know how Bakugou feels about All Might. And so when you look at that, it's a completely unbalanced fight, but it's meant to be like that. So that's what makes this so fascinating, is because these characters are having to overcome their weaknesses and things that hold them back from progressing as heroes. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I love you all so much. Please be safe. Chibi out.